afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Mona Davids. I am the founder of the NYC Parents Union. I am a founding member of the NYC School Safety Coalition. I am a public school parent. I am a public school graduate. I have a 14-year-old who is entering high school now, and I have a 24-year-old who attended a specialized high school and has completed all of her tertiary education. I'm here today with parents from communities throughout New York City. You can see the diversity of our parents, and we are here to ask Governor Hochul to veto the mayoral control bill, as well as the class size bill, which is an unfunded mandate. With regards to number one, mayoral control, our parents here will share with you the concerns they have and issues that they've raised that have been ignored by the legislature in drafting the most recent mayoral control bill. With regards to the unfunded class size mandate, we have parents here who were plaintiffs on the lawsuit regarding the funding for New York City schools, which does not include taking that $1.6 billion that parent plaintiffs fought for the last 8 years, of which I too am a parent plaintiff in this lawsuit, to give it as a giveaway to the United Federation of Teachers. We have 65% of New York City public school students who do not read, write, or do math at grade level. That has been the case now for almost 2 decades. We have a mayor, Mayor Eric Adams. We have a chancellor, Chancellor David Banks. 2 black men who are graduates of the New York City public school system. 2 successful black men who know the difficulties, who understand the shortcomings of our education system, and who are now being denied an opportunity to fulfill their vision and to improve the educational outcomes of our children. As parents, we are confused. We do not understand why the legislature gave Mayor de Blasio and Mayor Bloomberg real full mayoral control, 2 men from Boston, but they refuse to give the same type of respect and the same type of authority to 2 successful black men who are graduates of this system. We are here to say we support Mayor Adams, we support Chancellor David Banks, and we do not support this mayoral control bill, which is designed to fail the families in New York City. Our first speaker is Ms. Yatin Chu.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming to our press conference. My name is Yatin Chu, and I'm president of Asian Wave Alliance and one of the organizers of today's rally. Our electeds in Albany finally revealed the details of the mayoral control bill on Memorial Day, just 3 days before the legislative session closed. In less than 72 hours, they passed 2 bills that greatly impact the education of New York City school families. The sponsors tout that these bills are giving parents more voice to our kids' education. But if signed into law, they would actually disenfranchise families and be harmful to educating our kids. The mayoral control bill now calls for a 23-person unwieldy panel. Parents will be represented by 5 members. Okay, but guess who elects these 5 members? The same 32 CEC presidents that elected that 1 representative we have now, who in the past 2 years have failed to represent me and most of the parents in New York City. If elected, the sincere parent engagement that they're talking about will not be represented. We need all parents. All parents should vote for our reps, not just the 32 CEC presidents. We urge Governor Hochul to veto the mayoral control extension and fix it so that all parents vote for our representatives.
Yep.
I also have a big problem with the class size reduction bill. Parents I speak to are confused. They say, Yatin, isn't small class sizes good? But when you look at it, and I ask parents, when you look at schools, what are you looking for? Is that what you're looking for? The fact is, class size doesn't matter to most public school families. Year after year, the DOE parent survey shows that class size is at best number 3 on the list. Instead, what have we been fighting for? More GNT classes, more specialized high schools, more AP courses, and guess what? The class sizes in these programs are the largest of all. So if this class size mandate is signed into law, what do you think is going to happen to GNT, specialized high schools, and AP courses? They would all be cut. Even the crowded zone schools that you're counting on for your child, well, to comply, they may need to rezone schools, build trailers around the block, and possibly bus kids to school buildings where we have space. Of course, all these extra classrooms need more teachers. We already have a teacher shortage, especially for math, science, and language arts. Instead, what parents want, we want the city to build more schools, provide incentives for a strong teacher pipeline, and devote funding to what students and family really want. Safe schools with more enrichment programs and rigorous curriculum. These bills are far from what parents want.
Exactly.
Governor Hochul, we urge you to veto both these bills. Thank you very much.
Veto the bills. Veto the bills.
Next, I'd like to introduce Sam.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sam Pirozzolo. I am from Staten Island, and like the folks behind me, I consider myself an expert on education. And why do I consider myself an expert in education? Because my children, their children, are going through a school system that predominantly fails most of its students. Even Mayor Adams and Chancellor Banks will have to admit that New York State and New York City are not providing a sound, basic education for New York City public school students. So just let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Sam Pirozzolo. I was a CEC, or school board president, on Staten Island for 7 years. I got to see with my eyes how this system fails our students every day. So much so that I had to homeschool my son all through middle school and my daughter through high school. The school system we have now does not work. In addition, I was one of the very few parents in the lawsuit that was actually deposed for 6 hours by about 14 or 16 lawyers from New York City, New York State, and the New York government. And all they were trying to tell me was that in 2007, when the state said that the schools had to be funded even more than they were, Governor Cuomo had to reduce that funding because there was an economic downturn. However, they wanted to take that money away from your kids, your schools, your teachers, all right? But their salaries were very secure. When he said to them, well, gee, why take away money from the kids because of an economic downturn? Are you getting paid less? You know, of course, we can't talk about that. So we are in a position right now where we have two individuals, Mayor Eric Adams and Chancellor David Banks, two people who have been through the system, understand the system, and could possibly bring fundamental change to a system that they even admit is failing. But the government will not let that. God forbid we bring institutional change to a failing system. So how do they screw them over? How do they screw over New York City teachers, New York City students, New York City parents? they pass an unfunded mandate. What is an unfunded mandate? An unfunded mandate is basically a law, or the government, the people that you elect, and you say to them, run our government, run our system, watch out for all of us. They are telling New York City that they must use the money that I won. And when I say I won, this is not about me, it's about us. We are I, okay? We are me. It is about the money that New York City parents won to come back to New York City to educate our children. Now, they didn't ask me how to spend it. Did they ask you guys how to spend it?
No.
Okay, no. So the legislature wants to force the mayor to hire 13,000 new teachers with this $1 billion. Now, folks, if tomorrow we had the ability to hire 13,000 teachers, we have no place to put them. There are no classrooms. There are no schools. Could we shuffle them here and there? Sure, we can debate that later. But I'm going to explain to you the financial and economic impact that this will cause that will eventually kill our city. Because this $1.6 billion, this is a one-time shot that we have. But hiring 13,000 teachers is a $1 billion expense this year, every year, forever. Where is that money going to come from? So I made a couple of notes that I want to use this for, because not that I don't understand or remember what I'm talking about, but when it comes to telling you how New York is screwing you out of educating your children, we would be standing here for days. So I'm going to try to stick to this list, and move along. So let's talk about who benefits. The teachers don't benefit. The students don't benefit. The parents don't benefit. And certainly tax-paying New Yorkers do not benefit. Who does benefit? The institution of the United Federation of Teachers. What? 13,000 new teachers is the equivalent of $17 million per year in UFT dues being given to the UFT to further fund legislators who do not understand what this bill is going to do and impact our children. These are the experts. The legislators are not the experts. The UFT likes to tell the legislators that they represent everyone. But I didn't see the UFT when I was being deposed. Okay, it was just parents. So everyone will lose. And what will we lose? Like I said, we're going to lose $1 billion a year forever. Where do you think that money's going to come from? Us. All right? Where is it going to come from? Not only are we going to see cuts to existing school programs, we're going to see cuts to other city workers. Teachers in the future are not going to be able to get the raises that they want. Other city workers are not going to be able to be hired. The United Federation of Teachers is defunding New York City so they can have $17 million a year. This is criminal. I would rather just give them the shakedown money of $17 million and beg to spend the rest of the money the way that we need to see fit. As I said, we do not have the classroom space for 13,000 teachers. There is no way that anyone can tell you, because I know that some politicians are saying that former lawsuits are mandating this money be spent on that. Bull crap. This is money that is supposed to be going to New York City public school students. You cannot, like I said, you cannot buy for $1 billion recurring debt that will recur every year. It's not going to be able to be paid for. You have this $1 billion once. The wrong thing to do is to continue spending it. It's difficult. I mean, I want to call on Governor Kathy Hochul. These are the experts here. I don't know what you've been told, and quite frankly, I don't care what you've been told. You need to think about it. You're going to make two men who could possibly bring change from within the educational system, you're going to make them bankrupt New York City and New York City public schools because the United Federation of Teachers is telling you hiring 13,000 teachers is the panacea to all of New York City's problems. Nowhere have we been given the option as parents to speak and say, this is what I'd like to do. Hey, have we considered going to maybe a 12-month school year? I mean, not the kids have to be in school for 12 months, but the building can be open for 12 months. You can hire some new teachers and put them in that two-month cycle. Maybe you can go to a 6-day school week. There are things that can be done, but we have not been consulted, but we are the ones who have won this lawsuit. So Mayor Adams, I am telling you right now that we have the voice, and you will have no greater voice than when you speak through us. We are the parents of New York City public school students, and we demand that we have a seat at the table to decide how this money is spent and how our children are educated. Kathy Hochul, veto this bill.
Thank you.
Veto the bill.
Veto the bills.
Veto
Thank
the
you,
bill.
Sam. Next,
Veto the bill.
veto the bill.
Veto the bill. Veto the bill. Veto the bill.
Veto the bills.
Veto the bill.
Parents deserve to be heard. We won
Next.
this lawsuit.
Next, we have another parent leader. Next up is Karen Wang. She is the elected citywide high school council president. Karen?
Hi, my name is Karen Wang. I'm the Manhattan rep as well as the president of the Citywide Council of High Schools. The views I represent today are that of my own as a parent advocate. The class size bill does not address what students want. I recently met with a group of students to speak about what they wanted, what their issues were. These were high school students, part of the My Brother's Keeper program in Brooklyn, and what they told me was they wanted safe schools, safe transit corridors, and after school and enrichment activities. If the class size bill passes, we will not get that. They will not get that, and that's what they want. With regards to mayoral control, this bill is hugely flawed because it does not include representation for 1/3 of the students in the system. High school students have zero representation. They are not allowed to vote for the representatives to PEP, nor is there an appointed seat for high school students. So the legislators found time to make room for appointed seats for all the other citywide councils, but they conveniently forgot the Citywide Council of High Schools, and that's just unforgivable. That a bill that purports to increase parent representation in the system continues to leave out 1/3 of the parents in the system. So Governor Hochul must veto both bills. Thank you.
Listen to the parents.
Thank you, Karen.
Veto the bills.
Listen to the parents.
Listen to the
Listen to the
Next.
parents. Listen to the parents. Listen to the parents.
Next, I want to introduce another co-organizer, Phil Wang. He is the president of CACAGNY.
Listen to Phil.
Okay. Hi, good morning. Thank you all for coming. My name is Phil Wang. I'm the current president of Chinese American Citizens Alliance, Greater New York. I'm here today as a parent of 3 daughters that they were all educated in the New York City public schools. I myself is a graduate of New York City public schools in District 24, Queens. Now, both of these bills were written and passed in the middle of the night, the day before the Memorial Day long weekend. It literally was snuck in. There was no discussion. There was no attempt to solicit feedback from the parents or from any of us here or from CECs. It basically just happened. We discovered Monday morning when we're back from the Memorial Day weekend, and I call that sneaky, right? And that's because it doesn't work. These 2 bills doesn't work. You heard a lot already, and I want to tell you what happens when there's unfunded mandate on small class sizes. Okay, I sat in the school board, District 24 CEC, for 3 years. I was the president for 2 years. Nearly every other school in our district had trailers in the schoolyard for decades because it was so crowded. District 24 is one of the, for many years, it was the most crowded district in New York City. And there was no classrooms, they had to go to trailers. And let me tell you, right? What's wrong with trailers? They are independently built in a schoolyard. Most of them have no heat, there's no water, and if kids want to sit there, they have to walk across the yard to the main building to eat, to have gym, to have auditorium, or even going to the bathroom. That's how nasty it is on trailers. It took many, many years for them to get rid of the trailers. And guess what? With this small class size mandate, trailers will be back. Trailers will be back to every school because there's no money. There's no money. There's no money that came with this mandate. You heard it already, right? There's no money to build schools. There's no place. There's no space for these classrooms. Crowded classes will have to be dismantled, and not only they have to find teachers, they have to find classrooms. And I can tell you right now, many schools do not have the space. And the only way to get space is to bring back trailers. And I can tell you it's a terrible, terrible thing, right? Unfunded mandates do not work. If there's no money to build classes, there's no money to build schools, don't do it. Governor Hochul vetoed the bill. Veto the bill.
Veto the bill.
It makes no sense.
Veto the bill.
There's money for the teachers, that's good, but there's no money for anything else. Books, supplies, desks, chairs, where are they gonna find the money? I'll tell you where they find the money. They're gonna rob Peter to pay Paul. The schools will be forced to take money away from after-school programs, from sports programs, from tutoring classes to pay for these new classes. That's what's gonna happen. I know, I was president for 2 years. I saw it happening with my own eyes. And it's gonna happen again.
No!
Veto the bill!
And you know what else is wrong? We have legislators that either don't have kids or they do have kids, but they do not attend public schools. All right? And these are the same people that sit in educational committees and tell us what's good for us or what's good for our kids. And let me tell you, they don't know anything about education. Right? To sit in the education committee, they should have kids in public schools. It's common sense. Right? Well, same for Board of Regents. Right? We need people to have either they themselves gone through the public school system or they have kids in the public school system to understand what parents need and what the kids need. Now, one more thing on mayoral control, right? Stacking the PEP with an additional 8 members makes it more bureaucratic. It puts more chefs in the kitchen and it gets nothing done. I've been to way too many PEP meetings. It's just arguing, day after day after day, month after month after month. There's only for 15 people. Now they want to stack it up to 23 people. And whoa, more things to get done with 23 people. And let me tell you, okay, these people are not even appointed by the mayor. There's a comptroller seat. Brett Lander has a non-voting seat. CEC presidents have a vote. CEC presidents don't represent the parents. CEC vote themselves to decide who to be the president. I know, I was the president. Okay? So you want mayoral control, you tell the parents. Parents will vote for these new members. Right? Not CEC presidents. Okay? These new members dilute mayoral control. Eric Adams knows that, Chancellor Banks knows that. Okay? These bills do not help. They do not help the public schools. It will get more bureaucratic. It will get nothing done. These bills will not help us at all. So, Governor Hochul, if you're watching or sending people down to the elevators to take pictures of me or to take pictures of our signs, all right? Veto the bills. Veto the bills. Veto the bills. Veto the bills. Read it. Read the bills.
Veto the
Thank you.
bills.
Thank you, Phil. Sam, who spoke earlier, brought up something very, very important. This money, this $4.2 billion lawsuit settlement for school funding, this lawsuit was not filed by the United Federation of Teachers. This lawsuit was not filed by the legislators. This lawsuit was filed by parents and parent representatives. I myself, I've been a parent plaintiff on this lawsuit for almost 8 years, fighting for this money. Sam was deposed for hours. Our parents were harassed to drop this lawsuit. But it wasn't just parents on the lawsuit. There were CEC members, community education councils as a whole were on this lawsuit. And in the almost 8 years that we've been fighting for school funding, never once in any meeting with our lawyers or with the state and our lawyers was it ever said, never, that this money that we parent plaintiffs fought for was going to go to smaller class sizes. Parents were very clear, this money must go to our children, to tutoring, enrichment programs, and other support services. CEC 2, as well as CEC 3 and other CECs were plaintiffs. And we're going to start now to introduce these CEC representatives who can tell you what the money is supposed to go to. First up is Maud Marin.
Thank you, Mona. Hi, everyone. My name is Maud Marin, and as Mona said, there you go, thank you. Well, first, let me just say I have 4 kids in the New York City public school system. I have 2 high school children, a middle school child, and a kindergarten child. And I've served on CEC 2 for 4 years. I served as the president of that CEC. And I can tell you, Mona is 100% right. I met with the attorneys who brought the school funding case as a CEC president because the CECs are plaintiffs. We never discussed the money that we parents won going to small class sizes. Let me just say one thing. If we could have small class sizes, that'd be great. That'd be wonderful. Who wouldn't want that for kids? But this isn't a buffet where we get to go and pick every last little thing we want. There's a certain amount of money, and parents have made it explicitly clear, time and time again, that what we want are safe schools with great academics. How do we know that? I just went to my PTA meeting for my kids' high school this morning. We have one of the longest waiting lists in the district. You know why? Because we have one of the most strongest academic programs in the district. There are lots of schools all over the city right now with small class sizes. You know why? Because parents are trying to get their kids out of those schools because they're failing children. Parents tell us every single admission season that they prioritize quality of education over class size. If we could have both, I'd take that. Right? I would take everything for my kids if I could, but we have limited number of dollars, so we have a set of choices we have to make. And parents have told the legislators who aren't listening to us again and again and again that we prioritize great education over class size. That's why we have long waiting lists at schools that do a great job educating our kids, and we have parents desperate to get out of the schools that are failing our children. It couldn't be clearer. So why are we here? We're here because the adults who don't want to accept accountability aren't listening to parents and aren't prioritizing children. During the pandemic, our kids got cheated. They got cheated out of years of school, hours of school. They got cheated out of the emotional support they needed to be with their friends and to have normal life, and they got cheated out of education. But nobody paid the price except our kids. The federal government sent a whole bunch of money to the teachers' unions and to programs in our city that allowed everybody to keep their jobs despite the fact that they were failing our kids, despite the fact that 100,000 kids left this system because it wasn't doing a good enough job. And now, this bill in Albany is doing the same thing. It says it's okay that you're failing those kids, we'll give you more money. Right? That's not what we parents sued for. We sued for money to go directly to our kids, to have tutoring services, to have extracurricular programs. You know what took a big hit during the COVID pandemic? PSAL, the public school athletic leagues. They decimated sports, which for some children is the hook to get them in school and to keep them in school. We need money to go directly to our kids to help them get to school, stay in school, and do well in school. We do not need giveaways to teachers unions who have done an unbelievably bad job advocating for children during the last few years. I want to thank all the fellow parents who are here because we have to fight time and time again for our students. And let me just emphasize something Karen Wang said. Next year I'm going to have 2 kids in high school. There's 300,000 high school families in this school. We deserve a seat on PEP. We absolutely deserve to be heard and to be directly represented. And so this bill fails on multiple levels. It fails in the big picture of spending money where we shouldn't spend it, but it also fails to let parents have the voice that we absolutely need to have. We shouldn't have to be here standing on the street screaming out about vetoing this bill. We should be able to be in the room, at the table, sitting down, being heard, and having a voice in this conversation. So I thank all my fellow parents who are here with me, standing up for kids as usual. And I say, Governor Hochul, veto this bill. These bills.
Veto the bills. Listen to Mark.
Guys, let's promote ourselves a little bit. Can we do that? All right? Okay. So let's do some chanting. Veto the bill. 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 Now, second thing is, no money, fake bill.
Our money, our choice.
Oh, that's good. Listen to the parents. How about listen to the parents? Listen to the parents.
Listen to the parents.
Listen to the parents. Listen to the parents. Listen to the parents. Listen to the mayors. Our money, our choice.
Our money, our choice.
Our money, our choice.
Our money, our choice.
Right, well, we can do better than that, right? Our money, our choice.
Our money, our choice.
Our money, our choice. Our money, our choice. Our money, our choice.
Our money, our choice.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Next, we have another parent leader. I want to introduce Kush, Kaushik Das. He is a member of CEC2.
Hold this sign, hold this sign.
Thank you all. Now, so there's many things wrong with both these bills. Let's start with mayoral control. It's not mayoral control, it's controlled mayor. But be that as may, if the mayor wants to live with a board of 23 people, so be it. Just for reference, most boards for companies, successful companies, are on the order of 10 to 12 or smaller. But if this is what they want to do to handcuff the mayor and he wants to accept it, great. But Kathy Hochul, you should not force this upon him. But if you're going to do that, please give parents real choice, real representation. We deserve real representation. None of this voting by CEC presidents. No one gave the CEC presidents that power. They were originally supposed to just be chairs of their councils. Not get to vote, not get to have these extraordinary powers. And I'm on great terms with my CEC president, but that's not the way. If you want parents to vote, to have real choice, like Senator Lou says he wants, like you say you want, then give parents a direct vote. We have the mechanism already in place to vote that elected me, that elected him, that elected her, that elected him, that elected many of these people here, like my friend over here. Let us vote directly. Let parents vote directly.
That's right.
Let parents vote.
Let parents vote.
Let parents vote. Let parents vote. Let parents vote. Let parents vote. Let parents vote.
Beyond that, don't get me started on this other bill for class size matters. This is something that secretly has been in the works for a long time, funded entirely by U of T and other paid organizations. It is not to the benefit of families. It is not to the benefit of students. It is not what parents asked for. We did not ask for this. There are limitations in New York City on how our schools work. We just can't have tiny classes. That's not how the infrastructure in New York City works. Beyond that, failing schools already have low class sizes. This will not help those schools. What it does do is force kids into successful schools, whether they're Gen Ed, whether they're G&T, whether they're specialized high schools, whether they're regular middle schools, whether they're community schools, doesn't matter. All the successful schools are already packed. By limiting class size there, you're forcing an exodus out of those schools and probably out of New York City. In my district, 25% of the parents have already left. They say it's because of COVID. It's not just because of COVID. It's because of an ongoing war against merit, against schools that work, against against schools that perform. We can't continue this on and on and on. This serves only the U of T, gives them more power. They say we support teachers. Supporting teachers is not the same as supporting a union of teachers. Those teachers that actually teach aren't making decisions on that union. They're voting for their own self-interest, and this is what's being supported. This is what the politicians show support so they could get elected again. They are not listening to parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Push. Next, we have another parent leader and an organization that was also a plaintiff, Lucas Liu, president of CEC3.
Hi, thank you, and I'm so glad to see so many of my colleagues here today. My name is Lucas Liu. I'm the president of CEC3, and we're one of the plaintiffs on the campaign for physical equity. And I will tell you, and you've heard it here, none of us were asked about how that money was to be spent. I didn't hear anything, and I'm the president. You know, and this whole thing about class size, well, in my district and in districts across the city, there are many schools with class sizes already small, that are already meeting the size, the criteria that they're already talking about. And many of those schools are the underperforming schools. So don't try to come here and say small class size is going to solve the problem. Even if we want to pretend that these small class sizes don't already exist, even if we want to pretend that these small class sizes are helping students when they are located already in underperforming schools, even if we want to ignore that that already happens, there isn't any money for this. There aren't enough school buildings to shrink small class sizes. Where are these students going to go? And for the higher performing schools and the programs that are in high demand that are already full, you are in essence shrinking those programs by a third. Where are those students going to go? They are not going to go to these lower performing schools. These are families that are going to look for other options, whether it's charter schools, going to religious schools, leaving the city, going to private schools. That's what's going to happen. So the only way we'll ever get to be able to meet these small class sizes is if we continue to lose more students. And that is all that is happening right now. And by expanding PEP to 23 members, how do you even call that governance? All it is political patronage. Look who gets to appoint those members. All that does is weaken the mayor's ability to serve our schools. All that does is weaken Chancellor Banks' ability to serve our students. Why do we have so many, why don't we have more parents appointing parents to represent them to the council, to the PEP, right? So all of these things we need to look at and say, what is the purpose of these bills? What is the purpose of passing these bills to increase this per PEP? What is the purpose of the bill to shrink class sizes? It does nothing to serve parents and students. Parents and students want more programs. They want better quality education for their kids, and that is not even touched on in any of these bills. So the only right thing to do for Governor Hochul is to veto these bills and listen to parents so that we can actually come up with what parents want, what is going to help their students and not help Michael Mulgrew continue to run the New York City Department of Education, right? It's our money, and let us have a say in it. It's our students. Let us have a say in what they're being taught and how they're being taught. Class size is a red herring. Nobody actually explained to these uninformed elected officials what really happens when you shrink class sizes, what really happens when you expand PEP to 23 people. So again, veto the bill, listen to parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucas. Next, we have another parent leader, Chen Kwok. Chen is a member of CEC2.
Thank you, Yatin. Hello, everybody. There are certain truisms in life. Not all that glitters is gold, and nothing is more awful than seeing how sausages and laws are made, and also how DOE runs. My name is Chen Kwok. I'm a parent leader. I'm a member of CC District 2. I'm speaking for myself. I have 2 children in public schools in New York City right now. Mayoral control is not mayoral control. Faceless and nameless elites in Albany, without accountability, gave themselves more power. The mayor can't remove his own appointees now with this bill. Family and parent engagement through CEC representation on PEP is rigged. Why? How do I know? Because I've witnessed it as a CEC member who was not served by the current CEC representative on PEP. There is ELL and SWD representation and D75, but there are no reps for the high schools and also for families with children who want accelerated education. There are to support their learning needs. They are voiceless. Now I'll talk about class size. It's also a mirage. It's not what it seems to be. It sounds nice, but there's a lot of, it's huge in terms of funding and also time to build the schools. Have you seen the 2nd Avenue subway being built? Right? Have you seen any school building being built in Queens where there's severe overcrowding? These projects take not only a lot of money, but takes decades, a lot of over budgeting, right? And also with the new teachers that will be hired. Have you seen the teachers that come out now? They don't even need to pass a proficiency test to teach students. We're gonna get those teachers, and guess what? Our kids will suffer. It's a giveaway to the teacher unions because they make all the money, right? Meanwhile, there are alternatives like accelerated education, after-school programs, longer school days, which make the teachers work harder. Those would be much more effective at much lower cost. So I urge, no, I demand Governor Hochul to veto this bill, and we need to also elect a whole slate of candidates for the state legislature. People like Al Qualabam, Danielle Egroff, my fellow council member, Maria Danzilla, right? Maud Marin, Senator of Congress, right? And Vito Labella. Right? Unless we change the legislature, unless we change the governor, Tom Suozzi, Astorino, or even Lee Zeldin are better choices. Vote those people out. And meanwhile, Hochul, veto the damn bills. Thank you.
Yes.
Veto the bill!
Veto the bill!
Veto the bill!
Veto the bills! Veto the bills!
Thank you, Chen. We're going to be wrapping up. Our next speakers are going to also talk about how this unfunded class size mandate that doesn't put the interests of the children first, how it's going to affect our communities and our working families. Our next speaker is Al Cordova.
Go out, bring the fire!
Good afternoon, everyone. Or good morning, good afternoon, good afternoon. I'm old enough to remember when after 2:15 that I was able to walk downstairs in my school and get extra homework help. I remember when schools didn't close. I'm old enough to remember when we had a thing called after-school programs. Yeah. I remember when schools didn't close, kids were off the street. I seem to remember that the streets were a lot safer when we had after-school programs.
Absolutely.
But someone on high decided that after-school programs were no longer necessary, and crime went up.
Absolutely.
I can also remember a time when we had vocational training in our schools.
Say it again.
You see, I believe that if we give a child something to do, like swing a hammer because he's learning carpentry, or wire a building because he's learning electricity, that he'll be too damn tired to shoot a gun.
Right.
You see, we have to vote out the legislators that don't give a damn about our children.
Right. Exactly.
You see, the backroom deals and the closed door deals are over.
Vote them out.
Vote them out!
And it's time for us to put people in office that care about our communities. Yeah, there's a gentleman by the name of Michael Benedetto, who is the education chair of New York State, who happens to live in the Bronx. And the Bronx is one of the largest failing school districts in our state. Let me repeat, not in our city, but in our state.
Country.
And the education chair, Michael Benedetto, lives in the Bronx. How does the education chair live in a borough that's the worst educated borough in the state of New York?
Vote them out! Vote them out!
See, because there's a union that he is a part of, that he's bought by, that he sold out a long time ago. It's time for parents to have a voice when it comes to our children. It is time for us to be able to tell the legislator that it is time for us, for you to be heard, for us to be heard. We don't work for you, you work for us.
Right.
Right.
Kathy Hochul, I hope you hear Tom Swazi coming. Because it is time for you to go veto this bill or you will get voted out.
Right. Vote it out. Veto the bills. Veto the bill. Veto or go.
Mayor Adams and Chancellor Banks are products of the public school system.
Right.
We, for the first time in many years, have a black man leading this city who's a product of the public education system. For the first time in many years, we have an overqualified chancellor in David Banks. But the state legislator handcuffed mayoral control. Why is that?
They're afraid.
I'm not saying, but I'm telling you what it alludes to. Bloomberg had his shot, and he failed. De Blasio had his shot, and he failed.
Oh my God, did he fail?
But now we got someone, two people that are overqualified for the job, and they get 2 years. You make the connection. With that, I'm gonna stand back, but we need Hochul to veto this bill.
Veto the bills.
It is time that you heard from the parents of the people that send our children, not their children, our children to school. Veto the damn bill.
Veto the bill!
Veto the bills.
Veto the bill!
Thank you, El. We're getting ready to close. We just have 3 community parent and community leaders who are going to speak, and then we will close this press conference. Our next speaker is Sammy Ravello.
Hello, everyone. Since when did we compromise quality over quantity? Since when we start doing that? Now they're telling us, because let me tell you, small class sizes sounds good. We all can agree. Oh my God, small class sizes. We are on our way. But does that really guarantee a good education?
No.
Right? So, but they're telling us, and Phil said it more eloquently than I can. You know, some of these folks don't have kids. Some of these folks are not even either grew up in New York or went to our own public school system. But they're the ones making a decision for us. You know, and I'm just going to touch on a couple of things. My name is Sammy Ravello. I'm a community leader. I'm a product of New York City public education system. I got 2 boys that went through New York City public education system. I'm a former police officer, and I want to talk very brief about the dominant effect that an unfunded mandate is going to do to our kids. Because sooner or later, this is a law, and it's going to have to get funded. How is it going to get funded? By cutting other programs, and not just within the education system.
All right, we're gonna have to cut programs. We're gonna have to cut our school safety agents. In the time when we see a rising crime of almost 38% in our school system, we're gonna be cutting those down. So our kids are not gonna be safe. We're gonna compromise our transit system because we're gonna need to find the money because it's a law, and that doesn't guarantee me being from the Bronx. What if we don't have enough school teachers to bring the school, the class sizes down? What if that happens? Are we going to be breaking our own law? Because I don't see them hiring 13,000 new school teachers. There is a dominant effect and a safety effect involved with this law. Kathy, just like Al said, Tom Swazi is coming. All right, you gotta veto these bills. All right, thank you. Veto the bills.
Veto the bills.
Veto the bills. Veto the bills. Veto the bills. Veto the bills. Veto the bills. Veto the bills. Veto the bills. Thank you.
Thank you, Sammy. Our next speaker is Alhaji Endow, parent and community leader from Harlem.
Hello everyone, my name is Alhaji Endow, community leader. Like Mona said, we live in Harlem. Before anything, we all know what we are going through right now. The crime is rising up, and people are blaming who? Politicians, especially the mayor. And yet we know education is the key, we all know that. But with this cutting this budget, you can be ensured and know that we're going to be very grateful. It's not going to get better. So, Madam Governor, veto the bill.
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 The parents need to sit down where the decision will be taken. We know more of what our children need, more than you do.
That's right.
They all said it. Give the brothers a break. Mayor Bloomberg was here. De Blasio was here. Now Eric Adam is here. And what we hearing? 2 years? This is the place, this is New York City. The greatest city in the world. Where everything should be better. Especially the education. Thank you very much. Madam Governor, veto the bill.
Veto the bill. Veto the bill. Veto the bill. Veto the bill.
Thank you. Thank you, Alhaji. Our final speaker, last but never final, is Alpheus Marcus from Harlem.
Good afternoon, good morning. My name is Alpheus Marcus, I'm a community advocate. I've literally fought for the issues of failing schools, and I can tell you just from the complaints here, they have the money. Kathy Hobo has just recently funded money for a sports stadium that could have went to the public school systems. They have embraced.
Just wait. Say it again.
Kathy Hobo has literally given Buffalo Stadium $850 million in the last budget. Knowing that the public school systems here in New York City has been failing for decades. This new law to put restrictions on the mayor is what we really need to see what it is. It's racist. We have a school chancellor who has, through his own programs, been able to bring schools to a rate where you had a positive graduation rate, and now he's bringing that system to our education system, and they don't want that. And the UFT has never been a friend to the black community. We know that, we see this. And this here, with the new legislative bill, is an affirmative of that. And all the talk about what took place in Buffalo with the shootings, about being racist, this here is the epitome of racism right here. We have a bill that's designed to handcuff a black man that knows about education, that knows about the discriminatory issues that's in the school system, and knows that if you handcuff him and keep this going, that it will result to an unminded child going into the gang and gun violence. That's what this is about. the public school to prison pipeline, and this needs to stop. And she needs to veto this bill because, again, primary is here. And there's a lot of candidates that want to become leaders.
That's right.
So I suggest that she vetoes this bill and do what's right by the community. Because we can no longer suffer at the hands of the UFC for failing schools.
That's right. That's right.
Right. Veto the bills. Veto the bills. Veto the bills.
I want to thank all of the parents, the parent leaders, the parent plaintiffs who have been on the school funding lawsuit to get this $4.2 billion for all New York State students. And I want to thank you all for standing up again and fighting for our children. We urge Governor Hochul to veto this bill. Veto the mayoral control bill because it undermines the authority of the mayor and it's designed to make him fail. And we also urge Governor Hochul to veto this unfunded class mandate. Before you right now, Governor Hochul, are the parent plaintiffs, the CEC members who have been on this lawsuit for almost 8 years fighting for this money. And it is unconscionable that the legislators can just come and hijack and ransom this money that all of us fought for. Our children need programs. We want to extend GMT. We want more specialized high schools. We want the dyslexia program that is sorely needed. We want more vocational schools. This is what parents want. We want tutoring. We want after-school programs. We want robotics. We want coding. For the past 8 years, we fought on this lawsuit, and now that we finally got the money, now that you settled with us, do not allow the UFT to hijack and cheat our children again. Support Mayor Adams, support Chancellor David Banks. They know what we want and they know what we've been through.
Yes.
I'm going to put this over to Yatin Chu and Phil Wang, our fellow co-organizers and hosts of this. And I want to do a special thanks to Phil and to Yatin and to many of our parents who are always out there on the front lines.
Our money, our choice.
Our choice.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Mona. It's been a pleasure working with all the parent leaders and community leaders that came out today to speak out on the flaws of these two bills. We urge Governor Hochul to veto these bills and to make sure that our school system can be better in the next few years. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Veto the bill.
The question.
Oh, yes.
Actually, it's not so much a question.
Sure.
All the parents here. I'm doing a tangentially related story after doing the admissions process to high school.
Yes.
If any of you have 8th graders, I believe maybe you do, but
I do too.
just related this, then you're all familiar.
It's been a disaster.
Yes.
We know it's been a disaster. We're hearing from many parents since Wednesday.
Parents are getting school choice they've never heard of.
Okay.
In Elmhurst, we have parents that send to Staten Island.
Okay, so basically, if you don't have to do it like necessarily, unless my colleagues.
Are there any other questions?
Anything else? But
Anything else?
2 or 3 of you would be.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
That's it.
That's it. Thank you.
So you have one.